Hey everybody from the Piedmont Club in beautiful Spartanburg. Susie and I are here to discuss this month's book with Kristy Woodson Harvey.
Looking forward to it.
Hope most of you have had a chance to read it. I really enjoyed it.
I did too. And Kristy is so lovely. And we are in the beautiful Piedmont Club. It is not the sun's trying to peek out there.
It's trying.
It's trying. It's kind of a dank day, but we've needed the rain, so I'm trying not to complain.
I don't know about if it's different in Spartanburg, but in Greenville, we have gotten caught up on the rain.
We've gotten a lot.
It's been like a monsoon for about the last several days.
Yeah. I think total in my rain gauge, I've had almost 5 inches from when the rain first started.
Well, we needed it, so we're grateful for it.
I heard on the radio that we needed 6 to 12 inches to be out of the drought.
Really?
So definitely
interesting. Okay, so what else do we need to cover? We're going to swap our October. So Susie's book comes out in October 18th.
No, it comes out August.
I'm sorry,
August 18th.
August 18th. And we had originally slated that for August, and then we changed it to September so y'all would have more time to read. But now her travel schedule is going to be problematic.
Yes. So
we're
we've changed
that
it
back to August.
Yes. And if you haven't had, it comes out on the 18th. It'll just be a few days before we interview. But if you haven't had time to read it by then, maybe it will whet your appetite.
Maybe so. But you can't watch the whole
right.
The whole thing because spoilers.
There will be.
And that brings me to something we always like to remind everybody of. If you have not read Kristy's book, once she is with us in just a little bit, you don't want to watch this conversation because there will be spoilers. We assume that if you're watching this, you have read the book.
That's
so
right.
If you haven't,
if you hear one coming, put it on pause.
If you haven't read the book, come back and watch this later.
Definitely.
Okay. All right, so we've ordered our lunch. We're going to.
There were so many good choices today. We had a very hard time.
But we both ordered salads, which means that we probably can have dessert later, as is our custom. All right, so we will be back shortly, and
yes, see you soon.
All right. Okay, so
we had to sneak back in to show you all these gorgeous salads.
Okay, they are beautiful, but also we want to prove that we're actually having salads so that you won't think we're cheating later when we have dessert.
That's right. Susan's having 7-layer with salmon, and I'm having the special today, which is jerk shrimp with pineapples, avocados, and a mango dressing.
And that looks amazing. But this, I have to say, I'm happy with my ordering decision.
Looks
this
really
looks
good.
Really good. Also, I have been heavily into the, y'all know how much I love these saltines. I don't know what they do to them here, but they're very good.
They're addictive.
And I'm addicted to them. All right, we're going to have lunch.
Bon appetit.
Talk to y'all soon. Hey y'all, and welcome to another visit with the Lowcountry Book Club. I'm here with Susan Zurenda, and we are thrilled today to have New York Times best-selling author who's been on Good Morning America and all the places, and she's like a superstar, and we are just so thrilled that our friend Kristy is here with us
Yes, we
today.
are. We are so happy.
Welcome, Kristy.
I am so thrilled to be here with y'all. Thank you so much for having me. And you know how much I love the Lowcountry Book Club. And I'm very grateful for all your support and all your readers out there. So thank you.
Well, they love you. We love you.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I'm talking on top of your.
That's all right.
I was just thinking about, I think
We have a script, but we don't. We go off script.
off script's the best part. I was just sitting here thinking the last time I did this with y'all, I was on tour and I was trying to think where I was, but I remember like being in my room and there was nowhere that I could put the laptop at kind of the right spot. And so I did the whole thing. Like it was on my night table and I was like on the floor, but you couldn't tell because you can only see me here. But I was like sitting on the floor, like on my knees the whole time because I wanted it to look like I was sitting in a chair. The things we do.
The things we do, exactly.
I have done similar things, yes.
Yeah, okay. Right? I mean, of course.
All right.
Okay, and I'm Susan Zurenda, and I write, I guess, Southern literary fiction, and I have a new novel coming out in August, and I'm looking forward to that. But today we are very happy to be talking about Summer State of Mind, which I finished a couple of weeks ago, and absolutely loved. And it's just it's wonderful. It's about Southern stories and complicated families and strong women finding their way. That's a good formula and ingredients for me.
This novel has everything readers love in a great summer read: family connections, healing, emotional healing, second chances, community, romance, and characters who feel like they're real.
Yeah.
Congratulations on a wonderful book.
Yes,
Thank
absolutely.
you, ladies. Thank you.
Okay.
And we'll say, for anybody who's new and just joining us for the first time, that this interview is not just mine and Susan's questions, but some thoughtful comments and observations from people who follow and readers of the Lowcountry Book Club, and they always notice details we miss and think up excellent questions, and so we like to ask some of their questions as well.
So y'all settle in with a glass of sweet tea or something stronger if you need it for whatever reason this early in the week.
I'll have tea.
And let's dive in. So, Kristy, thank you so much for joining us. Let's begin with a big picture question. What was the inspiration for Summer State of Mind? What first sparked this idea of the story for you?
So this was one of those books that came to me over the course of a few years, which I always really like when that happens, because I don't know if y'all ever feel like this, but I feel like when I get an idea slowly, when I actually sit down to start writing it, it feels like it comes a little more easily. Like maybe my subconscious has been working on it the whole time, even if I wasn't really thinking about it. But I read an article about 3 years ago, maybe, about a NICU nurse who adopted an abandoned baby that was her patient. And I was just so captivated by the idea of that. And I'd never thought of it. And I don't know why I'd never thought of it. I think just all my NICU experiences were always with friends who were just had so many people wanting to see the baby and wanting to love on that baby. And I hadn't really spent a lot of time thinking that, of course, there are babies in that same situation who don't have all of that love coming their way. So I thought that would be a really good story idea, but I was working on something else and knew what I was going to write next. And so I just sort of filed it away. And then a few months later, I had a friend who is a NICU nurse who called me and told me she had a book for me, which I always love when that happens. And she told me that one of her friends had just adopted one of their little patients, and that she, would be happy to talk to me about it. So I was like, okay, well, I can't miss out on that opportunity. So I talked to her. And then still was working on something else, and wasn't quite the right time. But then a couple months after that, someone brought me a book. It was a self-published book of essays that were written by nurses who had made gray area decisions, I feel like you could say, in order to save a patient's life. And I was like, okay, this is a sign. Like this is
you've already had 3 signs at this point.
Yeah, it's like third time's the charm, right? Like there are 3 signs, you got to write the book. So then I sat down and started writing Daisy, my burnout NICU nurse, and sort of went from there.
I've got a good friend who was she's a nurse practitioner, but she was a nurse practitioner in the NICU. And her stories are just heartbreaking and heartwarming, so
yes, it would be such a rewarding job and such a difficult one too. And and Daisy is not actually in this book. When we see her, she's not actually working in a NICU. She's working in a tiny hospital, like little nursery that you kind of see on TV, like here's the baby. And it's a little bit of a break for her. So we're not seeing her during that.
We have that backstory, and it's still still an abandoned child.
Yes, still an abandoned child. But I actually thought really kind of purposefully about that. And I thought, if you've had a child in the NICU, which a lot of people have, you might not want to read about it again. So sort of tried to have that piece of her story be in another chapter, past chapter.
Because of all the trauma that you would experience in the NICU. That makes sense. And so this kind of falls into the next question that I have. Is Daisy's intense attachment to baby Maisie, whom she names Maisie. Of course, she genuinely loves this child, but there's also, I think, this psychological sense that her caring for Maisie is healing something inside Daisy. at the same time. So how much of Daisy's desire to foster and want to adopt Maisie is tied, you think, to Daisy's unresolved past trauma?
I mean, I'm going to say 99% of it. I mean, of course, of course she loves, it doesn't take away from the fact that she loves Maisie and she wants the best for her. And she does think that she is the person that should be caring for her. But I think what was interesting about writing Daisy, and something that I've never really done before, I feel like I normally go into a book and I have a character who is kind of falling apart on like page 1, or they've just fallen apart, or you see them fall apart and then you watch them get it back together. Daisy's kind of like falling apart and coming back together in real time. Like, we're really watching her. We're not hearing about her facing all of that trauma in the past. Like, we're actually living it with her in the present. And so, my hope is that when you're seeing her make these decisions that do seem kind of, not super stable, it's because she's not super stable. I mean, that's the point. Like, she's making some unstable decisions because she's in a very unstable place in her life. And, I don't know that we see characters all that much in this genre doing that particular thing, but I really enjoyed doing it and getting to sort of face that past with Daisy and letting her heal all of those wounds. And I think in that way, the decisions that she makes for Maisie and about Maisie are really symbolic every step of the way of where she is on her own path.
Right.
Of course, the AP English teacher would figure that out.
Of course. So, I mean, and you have several women in this novel struggling in different ways with the mother-child relationship. You've got Tilly, you've got Elizabeth, you've got Julie, and of course Daisy, and then Sarah. And so you've got all these women who are on one end of that equation or the other. And there are multiple echoes of women raising or becoming deeply attached to children they didn't give birth to. Is this just a natural thing that came out of wanting to write that NICU story, or are there other layers of something you were working with here?
It's so interesting. I've always been interested in this. Like, I've always written this, and I don't completely know why. Like, even my debut novel was written from a birth mother and an adoptive mother to their daughter. Like, and I feel like I'm always kind of these sort of echoes of family and how we create our family and who family becomes. I mean, I talked to you guys last year about Beach House Rules, and that was about, a group of women who aren't really related at all, except for one of them are aunt and niece, but sort of end up forming this unconventional family because they need that. And I don't know why I'm so fascinated. I have a very sort of like typical family, and we're all very close. And I think maybe part of it stems from just the fact that I always think about, where would I be if I didn't have them, and what would plan B look like? And so I think, just the idea that you don't have to be born into this family that's like just right for you, because the reality is so many of us are not. So being able to, pivot and find family in other ways and find that support system that you need. And I do think, I started writing right when I had my son. And I think I was really just so interested in this idea that I knew that I was going to have this baby and I was going to love him more than anything in the whole world. Everyone always tells you that. But I didn't really realize how much he was going to love me, like right away, like in that moment, like that baby knows you. And so the idea that like these children become attached to us in the same way that we become attached to them, even before they can speak, I think is just fascinating to me. And I think that is a lot of, the Maisie story. And a lot of the reason that Daisy's so attached to her is because this baby's so attached to Daisy, and like, she's the only person that she has. So I don't think I answered your question, but there was somewhere.
You did. And I love that perspective, because you have such a strong, functional, loving family. Your psyche is having you think about, what if you didn't? What do those folks do, and how do they make that happen? I think that's wonderful.
It's like a typical type A only child, always thinking of the plan B.
Well, I don't know where Aunt Tilly came from, but I love her.
Oh, me too.
She is.
She was my favorite
She
character.
is mine too, and she is deeply human, flawed like all of us are, and okay, surprisingly wise. And it was a perfect hand in glove then when we found out that she always wanted to be a stage actress. So and then she gets to perform, Dolly in Hello Dolly. So how did her performance as Dolly in the town theater become a way for Tilly to channel, or I don't know, she sort of comes out of her troubles, if you will, in large part because she plays that role. So how does living into this role that she's sort of acted throughout her adult life, how does that work? How does that help her reclaim sort of her true self?
So Tilly was really fun to write, first of all. But she is a very secondary character in my book, Under the Southern Sky. She's someone that we hear about. We never hear from her. We don't know her really, but we hear about her.
Right.
And she is one of the characters. I've probably gotten more emails and letters about Aunt Tilly than any character I've ever written in my whole life.
Okay.
And I was kind of surprised by that because she was such a secondary character, but she's so instrumentally important in that book. Even though she doesn't have a character arc, even though she is very much who she is that whole book, she became very important in that book. And so when I decided to write this book, I realized that Tilly could be sort of the perfect mentor for Daisy in this situation in which she finds herself. And I thought, why not? I mean, I wasn't planning on bringing back characters from an old book, but I thought, why not bring her back? And so when I really started thinking about her, it was very important to me that Tilly got her second act, literally, metaphorically, all the things. And I started thinking about what it would take. And so I knew initially, I do think that helping someone else is sometimes the easiest way for us to sort of get over our own troubles. And so I did want her to help Daisy, and I wanted that to be a part of her. But I thought we don't really know. I mean, some people in town think that Tilly's just a great actress. Some people think she has some sort of mental illness. Some people are like, oh, she's just a Southern lady and she has the vapors, because we just accept things like that and move forward, So she was kind of a mystery. We don't really know, like, is she pretending or is this real? And so to get to see how she has kind of gone to this other place in her mind for so many years to protect herself from a lot of pain and grief that she's had in her past. Just to me, it just made it the perfect segue into, like, she's been acting all this time. What if she really misses acting on stage? And what if becoming someone else is what really allows her to reclaim who she is? I don't know that I'm saying that well, but
it's a wonderful irony. I mean, that acting the stage role allows her to stop play acting her real life. It's like
that was much better said. Thank you. But yeah, I think that's the point. And I didn't really plan that. I started writing her, and it was somewhere around maybe like Tilly's third chapter or something. So it's about a third of the way into the book, maybe, that she decides she's going to audition, for Hello Dolly. And she knows her sister will never let her. And so she has to trick the poor unsuspecting babysitter, Daisy, into taking her.
I had so much fun with this. I love Tilly. I love the Hello Dolly thing. And all I could think of when I'm reading this is, I wonder if Kristy was ever in a stage production. Did you ever audition for anything with the Piedmont Players? This is what I'm seeing, is you on stage in Salisbury in my head.
Piedmont Players was a big thing, but here's the thing. I didn't. I mean, I did some plays at school because you had to, like, the 8th grade production or whatever, but I was never an actress. That was never really my thing. But I loved Hello Dolly. Like, I just loved it. And so when I started thinking about, what would be a role that Tilly at this age and stage of her life would be really well suited for, I was like, oh, she could play Dolly Levi, and she's like, I only want to be as good as Barbara Streisand and no better, like, oh, okay, well, good for you, because that's no problem. Yeah. But I really loved that play. I loved watching it and watching it as the movie and, all of that. But I had sort of forgotten a lot of the finer points of it. And so I actually wrote most of the book before I went back and watch the movie again. And I was like, oh my gosh, there are like a lot of parallels between Dolly's life and Tilly's that I think were just somewhere in that soup of my memory that I didn't really remember. But yeah, no acting for me. I just thought it would be fun. There's something about community theater that I just feel like is so Southern small town too. It's just
Totally. I love it. I went to a production of Still Magnolias recently with my granddaughter and loved it so much. And I guess that was on my mind because of that. But anyway, I had to ask if you had been on stage.
Oh yeah, no, female players was a big thing, and a lot of my friends did it. That was not my gift, Susan. It's not my gift.
So Pat Dupuy made a comment that we both really loved. She said that she appreciated the philosophy that not everyone is a problem to be fixed or a puzzle to be solved. That feels like such a compassionate thread running through this novel. Was that theme intentional from the beginning?
Yeah, I think it was. In fact, well done, Pat. Like, I feel like maybe that's
such a great observation.
I mean, I feel like if you really wanted to sum this novel up in one line, that would probably be it. And we see all of these characters. I mean, Mason has like really gone to hell and back in his life, and date. I mean, in a different way, but in a way that I think is no less real. I mean, I think if you've never, I mean, I've never been this either, but I read a lot about this, which is what inspired this character. But if everyone and everything, professional athletes often have the most difficult time like moving forward in their life and kind of recovering from these great losses. And it's not just because they can't play a sport anymore. It's because you see this a little bit, but like every single thing that you do is tied up in that sport, but every single person's perception of who you are is tied up in it too. And so no longer being able to do that thing that you love just changes everything about you. And I think, we see this in Under the Southern Sky, maybe a little bit in Summer State of Mind. Like everyone's sort of trying to fix him a little bit, like why can't he get it together? And why is, and Daisy, of course, has all these things in her past that we find out about that are just not necessarily fixable. Like some of these things just are what they are, and you have to figure out how to move forward with them. But that doesn't necessarily mean that somebody from the outside is going to come in and make it all better. And Tilly's the really obvious example of that, and who that line is about. Mason says that she has taught him that not everyone is, a problem to be solved or whatever it was.
It's such a great observation. So now this is just taking us a little bit away from what we've been talking about. But you and your mom have the design blog, and you have this incredible taste and so forth. So it's not surprising to me that one of my favorite scenes is when the whole community seems to come together at lightning speed to help Daisy get this house ready so that she can go through this foster inspection, and she hopes to be Maisie's foster mother. So I'm just curious, have you ever had to pull off like something like that, like companies coming in 15 minutes miracle? I mean, move furniture,
Haven't we all had the moment where you come home and you're like, so-and-so's coming, and everybody like take a room and clean up and throw stuff in the closet, and like, haven't we all had that? I will say, like, I feel like I'm in this, I'm in my sports mom era right now for sure.
Yeah.
I really liked writing that part because we laugh all the time. We're like, if you need any world problem solved, like just take it to the group me, and like the moms will have it fixed in like 30 minutes. It doesn't matter. Like world peace will be achieved. The climate will be solved. Like everything will be fine within the span of the group me. Because, and dual purpose, right? Because not only are the moms just really good at organizing things, but also when the coach asks for something, there's always in the back of your mind that like, maybe there's a little extra playing time for your kid, or, maybe it's good for the coach to, you're a little, I mean, I'm kidding, but I'm not. I mean, I'm kidding, but I'm not. Like, I think it's all like tied up in that. So I have never had to like, pull off someone's, house being decorated that quickly or anything. Although, I mean, I say that, I mean, maybe moving my grandparents to assisted living, or like my mother-in-law, like things like that happened really quickly. And it was like, okay, like get the truck, get the stuff, like we're going to make it great. It's going to be great. We've definitely done that in, a couple of days. But I haven't been in that exact situation, but I do think there've definitely been things of like, okay, we got to do this fundraiser, or we've got to, and the moms just, everybody's like, I'll do this, I'll do this, I'll do this. And it's just done. And it's like, okay, great. Many hands make light work.
That immediately. I need that.
What are
Group.
you talking about? Your house is beautiful. What are you?
Oh, my house is dated. Let's move on.
Oh, okay. All right.
So thank you, Susan.
You're welcome. All right. So we have more from Pat Dupuy, who apparently put a lot of thought into her questions. And she was wondering whether the twins helped draw Tilly back toward reality in some ways. Did caring for them give her a renewed sense of grounding and purpose?
1,000%. 1,000%. I mean, the twins being born really kind of heals something inside Tilly. And I didn't belabor this in the book, but okay, I bet y'all know what I'm talking about. So you know how sometimes you know a lot more about your characters and their situation, and you might put it in a draft, or you might take it out of a draft, or it might not ever even go in the draft, but in your mind.
Right.
So I sort of, in my mind, Tilly obviously did not start out living with, Greer and her children and Parker, because how terrible. That's probably not the ideal situation, but she just didn't do well outside of this childhood home where she had lived her whole life. And so being able to stay there and be in the atmosphere and the environment where she's most comfortable, but also to get to be, I think it's George and Greer themselves, of course, but I think just, again, it's that fact of being purposeful again, like the fact of someone needing her, and just these little things. Like we see her, she gets up every morning and she makes breakfast for the family, and then she kind of like goes away so they can have their little family time. But just the idea that like that thing that seems really small is like life-changing to a mother of toddler twins with a full-time job. Like she's got a lot going on. And I think just the purposeful piece of that, and the way that they just love her. And I think there's a line in there where she says that, the love of children is really truly earned. Like no one's just loving you for the heck. Like they sense that you love them. There's something about like the love of a child that is very pure and special. And so I think feeling that too really kind of brings her back in some ways.
Yeah. Now, again, kind of shifting to a different topic. So Cape Carolina is the setting of Under the Southern Sky, and of course, it's the setting here as well. What is it about? I mean, so many uplifting novels, are set in beautiful seaside towns like Cape Carolina. What is it? I started thinking about this. What is it about a beach setting that provides such fertile ground for meaningful, rich, and emotionally uplifting storytelling?
Well, this is like very specific to me and very specific to this book, but I think I have an essay coming out in Southern Living about this that I wrote, and I truly hadn't thought about this, and I'm not sure that I'd ever really thought about it or ever really kind of like come to terms with it or like sort of felt that. But we had this really crazy experience in 2018. There was a big hurricane that came through that completely destroyed our house. We had moved my mother-in-law down here. She was on hospice. We couldn't get back. I mean, we had moved her out obviously too, but then we couldn't get back here for like weeks, but then she was able to get back. So we were with her, and like she passed away. We had nowhere to live. Like it was just this crazy, like I look back and it was just this chaos of like, trying to figure out the house and planning the funeral and it was just all these things like kind of colliding at once. And Will was like 6 years old and he saw her every day and he didn't have a house. Like it was just all these things that I was just sort of like grappling with, but I never really thought about any of it. It was just like, okay, this has to be done and this has to be done and this has to be done and this has to be done. And so we had moved like a million times trying to find somewhere that we could like actually stay for a few months or 14 months as it was while our house was redone. But an acquaintance that we like barely knew reached out to me one day when it was in this at this like very kind of like dire moment where we were like, we are going to have to move away. Like we are like running out of options. And it was like at nighttime, like I was getting ready to go to a book thing. Will was getting ready to go on a work trip. And we were like, we've got to decide something. And she sent me an email and was like, I heard about your situation and I have a house and it's mostly rented, but I could cancel my rentals if you guys want to rent it for the next few months. And I was like, it felt like a miracle. Like I was like, this is a miracle. It doesn't sound like that big of a deal, but when you're in it and you're like, we don't have anywhere to go. Like, and there was just such widespread damage too, that it wasn't like so many people were displaced and so many of the places that you would have theoretically been able to rent were destroyed. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. And I remember just like going into that house and sitting down at her desk and like it was like overlooking this marsh that looks exactly like the cover. And just feeling like I could breathe, like just being like, oh my gosh. And just that book just Under the Southern Sky just like poured out of me. Like it was one of the easiest books I've ever written. And I think it was one of the most complicated, which I think is interesting. But it just was like, I don't know, somehow this culmination of all of these things just coming together like right in that moment. And so I think for me, like really personally, there was something about just sitting down, like being on that piece of land, like being on that water, being in nature and all of those things that was just very soothing and comforting and just made me feel like, okay, it's all fine. Like it's all going to be fine. And I, I'm not trying to over dramatize it, because truly at the time in my mind, it was just like, I wasn't like, I was fine. Everything was fine. It was just like, we've just got to get from one day to the next. And how do we continue doing that? And it was like somehow being there finally and feeling like we were like a tiny bit settled was just so.
It was a miracle.
I mean, it was a miracle. It really felt like a miracle at that time. And it was so relaxing. And it was like, I hadn't even realized how like stressed out I maybe had been until I got there and was like, okay, like it's all going to be fine. This is all okay. And so I do think there's something just really, just overarchingly about coastal settings and the beach. And I think when you look back and you think about, happy times and times with your family and times with, it's kind of at the beach, it's that freedom and space and room to grow and play and all of that. I don't know.
Yeah, but and I think you hit it when you said the word relaxing. There's something sort of primal about what water does to us.
It is. And I can't fully explain it, but I know exactly what, I mean, just something about just being at sea level even just makes me feel so much better. Just everything feels better.
I know. I always see those memes on Instagram that are like, everything really fell apart when doctors quit prescribing time by the sea. Like we really need to get back to that.
That's what I need a prescription for. I'm going to find a doctor to write me one.
That's exactly right.
Time by the sea. Just go ahead and move.
Well, they used to do that all the time.
Exactly.
Doctors would prescribe people to go to a seaside setting too.
Yes.
Right.
What happened to those doctors?
I don't know. We need them. We need them.
Now it's just give you a pill. Another of the readers here in this group submitted kind of a fun question. Susan long insisted that she wasn't ever going to cross over her Liz Talbot and Hadley Cooper, two different series, till she did. So Neil wants to know whether you would ever, this is hilarious, whether you would ever include a heroic North Carolina State Wolfpack graduate in one of your novels, and specifically not make that one the villain.
Let's guess who Neil's pulls for.
Yes.
I have to be really honest with you. Like, I know you're gonna think I'm crazy. Like, I've never felt any like Wolfpack animosity. So yeah, like I would definitely do that. I've never like I didn't have any of that, which is really funny. And I think maybe because like a lot of my best friends went to state and hung out there and had a lot of good times. So yeah.
I actually went to state for a while. That was my first college. I had several. I couldn't make up my mind anyway. And at one point I really wanted to go to UNC. And so I had a lot of friends who did. And I know there's a huge rivalry, obviously, but I never really thought of it
Right.
that way.
Right.
It's so funny because I still don't really, and I don't know why. I
Yeah.
mean, I guess I should maybe, but I don't. So the answer would be yes, I can 100% see that happening.
Well, yeah, my younger daughter, she ended up going to Clemson, but really no one in our family had ever gone to Clemson. We were huge South Carolina fans. For the longest time, Suzanne really just thought she was going to take the scholarship opportunity at Carolina because she didn't think she could go to Clemson,
Right.
the rival. But she finally did go to Clemson, and it was good. And so there you go.
There you
Yeah,
go.
I mean, you can
Have
just
a rivalry.
You can do whatever.
I
I was just at I was in Columbia a couple weeks ago, like doing book events, and I came out and they had all these buses. Like there was some kind of sporting thing going on. I think it was like recruiting for the athletes, but I think they were like scrimmaging and things that day. And so I came out and I was wearing this like sort of crimson and white striped dress, just completely coincidentally. And so, and I was staying at the Graduate, which is, like the university kind of like a lot of people stay there when they're staying in the hotel. And so I was like, walking out, people would be like, yeah, go Gamecocks or whatever. And I was like, yeah. And I was like, oh my God, I'm wearing their colors. Like, look at me. I did such a good job, but it was really funny. But yeah. Oh yeah. I could see anything happening.
I missed a carry-on question. Chrissy also wanted to know something very important. Is Robbie still the mayor in Cape Carolina?
I'll tell you, your readers are very careful. They're
I don't actually know the answer to that. Let's say
fair
yes.
answer.
Let's say yes. I mean, someone in that family is for sure. So if it's not Robbie, it'll be him again. Maybe it'll be Amelia in the next book.
Now that would be fun.
Yeah.
Not that there's going to be another one. I don't know why I said that.
So I was getting ready to say that was my next question, but you've already answered it. Is there another one?
I
Okay.
think we'll move down to
Yeah, let's move to.
yes.
Is it your turn or mine?
I think we'll ask what she's writing next.
Okay. What are you writing next? What's next for you?
Yeah, because you're talking about what you were working
What's
on.
next?
Oh, y'all, are you ready? Buckle up.
Okay.
So September 15th, I have Falling for Peachtree Bluff coming, which I'm very excited about. So it is the 5th book in the Peachtree Bluff series, and weirdly, something that I started writing in 2021. I started writing it immediately after I finished Christmas in Peachtree Bluff, and I never thought it would be published, never even would have like gone out with it. And my editor came to me like maybe a year ago and was like, do you want to write another Peachtree Bluff book? And I was like, yeah. And I already had like at least half of it written. So that was exciting. So that helps with the continuity, right? When you've just picked up right after. So I'm very excited about that. And then let's see what else. I have finished what I thought was going to be my next book. And it's sort of like a historical contemporary, and it's inspired by a real island near where I live that used to be like a fully functioning society, and then is not, for reasons that you read about in the book, but about a fictional secret society that sort of exists to carry on some of the traditions. And I thought that was going to be my next book, but it probably wasn't going to come out until 2028. But then I just had another idea for like a Christmassy rom-com that I think I am going to write now, and I think it's going to come out in 2027. So we'll see. I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm going to have a 2027 book or not, because I had 2 in 2026. My grand plan was to give myself like a little breath, but
you're so full of ideas and plots.
But I have all these ideas, and I get so excited about them. So,
yes.
We'll see.
Well, I'm looking forward to back to Peachtree Bluff. That's going to be a lot of fun.
It certainly will. It certainly.
And that's coming out when, in September, you said?
September 15th. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, it was funny. I was like on the plane on the way home from tour, and kind of got this email of like, hey, we've been trying to hold off. We're really sorry, but we really need to nail down your next tour dates. And I was like, what have I done?
I mean, you aren't finished with this tour, and you'll be out again in the fall.
What have I done? No, but it'll be great.
I think you really do need to give yourself a little rest after. Oh gosh. All right, we could go on because
We could,
this is
because
so
we still
wonderful.
have pages of questions,
Well,
but
and we
you know,
just-
we
But
probably.
this has been so wonderful, and we appreciate you being with us so much.
Oh, thank y'all for having me. I'm so happy to be
To
here.
the audience too for tuning in to something that Susan and I enjoy, and especially being with Kristy so very much.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you for always having me and being so supportive, and I really appreciate it so much.
Well, thank
And
you so much. We
If
love your books.
if you haven't picked up Summer State of
I
Mind,
know.
please
Look, I
do.
have like a whole stack of them beside me on my desk, leaning precariously. They're ones that have little damages on them. Oh,
Oh.
no.
Well, thank you again. This has been so much fun. It's always a pleasure to have you, and we will talk to you again
Yes,
soon.
yes, absolutely.
All right. Take care.
Thank you,
Bye.
Kristy.
Thanks.